I think like I've had a recent experience. I was telling Caesar on the way up that, there was another experience where a kid was interacting negatively with my kids. I had to, use kind of a stern voice and be like, stop, don't do that. Like you continue to do this, it's going to really upset me. And I had to do that in front of this other parents. And I was like, this felt really awkward having to like use like your stern dad voice. And
that was directly affecting you.
Yeah. I mean, the kid was, tormenting my daughter. Yeah. And I was like, and my daughter's like, stop, I don't like this.
Right.
And stop, I don't like this. And I said, stop, I don't like this.
Welcome to the Capable Dads episode. Don't know because
it's all gonna be mixed up anyway.
All gonna be mixed up. I'm Stan. This is Brendan.
Hey,
that's Caesar.
Hey,
we are the Capable Dads, which is a little self-congratulatory.
Can be,
but that's what we're gonna talk about today.
Yeah.
Although we are capable in our eyes, we are also incapable at times, and let's dive into that and let's see how that title affects us, right? How the standards that we put on ourselves, carries that weight on our shoulders. But let's pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yep.
Right, fearless leader Caesar. Why did we name our podcast the Capable Dads?
It's interesting that we're having this conversation because I didn't actually put that much thought into it. I think when I first approached you guys to start something, and I didn't know what it was to begin with. And when I first approached you, Stan, and we went that bike ride, I was thinking like, I want to do something related to us enjoying being parents, us enjoying this stage in our life and all that. And I reached out to you two because I felt, there are a lot of moral values that we share that I think are consistent, that we can talk about, and our kids are of similar ages. And so I felt like we were kind of moving through life as a parent at similar paces. And when the idea came up that, maybe we should just start talking about this and actually recording it in a podcast style, I was thinking, okay, so what are we going to name this? And the first word that came to my mind is that we're a bunch of capable dudes that can get things done. And so I thought, when I created our group chat, I'm like, okay, let's call it the Capable Dads. And that was by no means, saying that this is the way we have to go. But I think through time, through us meeting up and talking, things like that, it kind of grew on us. And we kind of started identifying with the name a little bit more. And in the end, I think it's really how we perceive ourselves. It's how our kids perceive us. I think that's probably the most important part of what actually matters is what do our kids think of us? People are going to have their own perceptions. They'll have their perceptions of what that word means, capable. But I think what matters the most is what we feel it means and what our kids feel like it means. And I feel confident that I'm capable of what I do as a parent. So that's how I came up with it.
Okay. Brendan, how do you feel being classified as capable? Like everybody has two personalities, right? Your own ego and what is true, and what people perceive you as. So when Caesar calls you up and says, hey, I have this project I want to run by you, and here's the label that I threw on you, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think joining the podcast, the reason I did it was for a lot of the same reasons Caesar had highlighted was, we're all going through the similar stuff. I don't know if I considered myself capable or incapable, so to speak, but I did feel like I have a lot of value and a lot of meaningful experiences that I can contribute. And I do want to get better as a parent and, put in some of the work and talk about that and try to help other dads get better. So I was like, from that perspective, I was like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. reflecting on after, going through it a tiny bit and reflecting on, what it means to be capable is like providing for your kids and contributing to the family as much as you can. I definitely think I'm capable in that. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Am I the best parent in the world? Hell no. There's so many things that you could improve on and change. But that doesn't mean you're not capable. I don't think. I think
Totally.
It's like you can definitely still consider yourself capable.
Still grow.
Still
right?
grow. There's still room to grow.
improvement.
Right. Yeah.
So you said that you're not the best parent in the world.
Yeah.
Do you think you're your kid's best parent in the world? Other than your partner, obviously, but you as an individual.
That's a loaded one. Yeah, if the partner's in there, yeah, no. I think it's like an impossible question to answer almost because like I think the way the kids are and how they've kind of grown and because of who they are is partly because of me and
Right.
how I've influenced them, right? So
Yeah.
it's like they're the way they are and how they're dealing with things and how they're coping and their personalities are a reflection of some of the of me. Of
Yeah.
course, of like, what I've imprinted on them. So, no, I don't think so. Yeah.
Right. And so I think I'm in the end, as we've talked about in other episodes, that's the only person that their opinions matter. That's what I think. Like that, the only opinion that matters to me of how good of a parent I am is be what my kid thinks about me, not about what anybody else thinks about me.
You think like right now or in the future?
At any point.
At any point. Well, I just like cognizant too. Like the kids are, they got the rose-colored glasses on to like the ultimate too, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's like they're obviously. I think they're gonna think we're always the best, right? Sometimes maybe like the proof is in the pudding. Maybe with the kids too, right? Like and how they're doing. Like, are they doing okay? Maybe that's a bar of like assessment. But
Right.
There's a long arc.
Yeah.
We'll see like when they're 20 or 30 if they're. If they're still affectionate and want to be around you, that's
That's the goal, right?
Yeah.
That's what we do all this work is for that moment,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's it exactly. So
What about you, Stan? Do you identify with the name Capable?
At first, I was a little hesitant
Yeah.
being part of a group called the Capable Dads.
Yeah.
It, again, like I said from the beginning, it did sound a little self-congratulatory, a little labeling myself as the cool guy,
Yeah.
But the more I wrestled with it, the more I am comfortable with the label as being capable. I think it has a sense of like being present and being consistent and being able to handle what your kids throw at you that makes you capable.
yeah,
Right? That you can grow as a father with your child, with your children, and to meet their needs. And we're not doing anything extraordinary. We're not doing anything that wins us accolades from outside the family group.
Right.
We're just trying to be that hero to our kids.
Yeah.
Right? But I want to touch on something that you guys said. That you guys were talking about. If you are the best, what was it? That you are the best parent
For your
for
kid.
your
For your
kid?
yeah.
I think that I know my kid the best at this point. But God forbid something happens, I'm out of the picture. I have to believe that there are other people, other figures that can step in, that can do the same,
Right.
right? To say that I'm the only one meant for this kid, it's a little, straight and narrow, right? Like there's no room for deviation. And I say this because I didn't tell you guys this, but before we had summer, we were thinking about becoming foster parents. And we went to the Pride program, which trains you through how to deal with trauma, what kind of baggage these kids come from. It's run through the Children's Aid Society, so a lot of these are not the best situations to come out of. You bring a lot of the skill sets as a father to these other kids. And if I have to be that same father figure to them, I will try my best as well.
For sure.
Right. But to say that, hey, your father is your father and I can't be any type cast like that. I don't think it's true. I think
That's good.
dads can support dads by being dads to their kids. Is that a far stretch?
Just because you're not the biological father for somebody doesn't mean that you aren't able to be a very capable father figure to that person and do just as good of a job as if you were the biological father of that person.
Exactly.
Which makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Just because
Yeah,
I'm not there
yeah,
at the
well put.
beginning. Yeah, just because I'm not there at the beginning doesn't mean I can't learn
For sure.
the complexity of a strange child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was maybe the right way to put it is someone who's capable is almost someone who's willing and is like who's going to go in there and give it their all and like do the best they can, get in there and get their hands dirty and try to lend their skills and put in a lot of work and help that and that's what actually makes you capable is being the willing person to go in there and do that.
Yeah,
whether you're
totally.
biological, whatever kind of partner, however your family looks, right?
Yeah. A number of times throughout our episodes, we've made the disclaimer that we're not experts, and we are not experts.
No, by no stretch. Yeah.
And
Just some regular people trying to figure it out, right?
totally. And I think every parent goes through that feeling, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if someone comes across as, hey, I'm an expert parent, you kind of, it's like red flag.
Yeah.
well, it's expert to what though? Like you're an expert at sleep training. You're an expert at initiating solid foods. You're an expert at behavioral changes. Great. But what does it mean to be an expert parent? So let's go back to the beginning when we first became brand new parents, had our first kid, or even subsequent kids and all that. Did you guys ever do any like research, read books, kind of prepare yourself for it, or did you kind of just dive right into it?
I think I just dove right into it. I think
Yeah.
my wife had done a bit more research and
Yeah.
preparation for it. I remember just being with her in the hospital, and we're like, okay, it's time to go home with your kid, and you're like, oh man, and that it gets real, right? I mean, that's when it really hits home as a father, I think.
Totally.
But I think my wife, it was a lot more real through pregnancy
Yeah.
because obviously there's some physical changes and impacts, right?
Did your wife ever express to you that the preparation and the reading and all that actually helped and kind of made her feel prepared for everything that came at her, or was it just like it was a whirlwind either way?
Yeah, I think she did say that. I think she would say, I don't want to, put words in her mouth, but I do think that some of the preparation probably did help her. It's there's so much growth that you go through as a parent that nothing is going to really prepare you for that. But sometimes maybe just reading will put your mind at ease leading into it, so you're a lot less stressed, and you have some basics that you can go through.
Totally.
Nothing's going to prepare you for sleep deprivation. Crazy amount of like emotional rigor of like just going through the challenges of rearing newborns, right?
Yeah. What about you, Stan?
Karen and I both have younger brothers that are considerably younger than us. My younger brother is 13 years younger than me, and Karen's brother is 10 years younger than her. So when they arrived on the scene, it was kind of like a crash course for us, right? So I took care of my brother. I knew how to change diapers. I knew what to expect. The crying, the constant attention seeking. So I had experience, right? I wasn't too worried about what happens after the hospital. And I remember this. There was this one time where before you, like 2 weeks before your due date comes, you have to like meet at the hospital and with like a group of other expecting parents, and a nurse goes through the rundown of what it is, and everybody's like, oh, what do I do after I leave the hospital? And both Karen and I were like shocked. We were like, why are they worried about what happens after? We're all worried about the actual labor, right? That's the messy and scary part. after everything's said and done, we have a baby, enjoy it, right? So I didn't have a lot of the fear going in. I already knew what to expect. I already knew what my role was going to be, and I was just there to support Karen as much as I can, and the kid. So no, I wasn't too put out of place. Yeah. I rolled into that role pretty easily. Yeah. How about you, as a doctor?
I think for me, was I prepared? No, I don't think I was. And at the same time, it wasn't a negative experience either. I think I went into the mentality of having a newborn. I anticipated it was going to be tough. I anticipated it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of sleepless nights and all that. And so even though I wasn't prepared for how tough it was, I also didn't set the expectation that it was going to be easy. So I almost mentally prepared for that was going to be tough. So it kind of eased the landing a little bit.
Like you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
But you know it's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. I'm not going to have any expectations. I'm not going to, pretend that everything's going to be fine and that I'm capable right from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly. I think when you're coming at it and you're going to give it your all, and you have a lot to learn. Everyone does. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole like inescapable parenthood feeling, that really sucks.
I think everybody in the newborn phase is like, you're just in this shitstorm that like, you're just like, no, you can't navigate anything. And you can't. So I think we all experience that to a certain extent, which is completely normal. Did you guys, and back then and or now, do you follow any kind of quote unquote parenting experts on social media or anything like that kind of you kind of learn their advice? And
I don't know if it not necessarily on social media, but probably peers, I think, there's a lot of really positive dads
totally
that I see around, you guys, yourself included, and you can pick up a lot of like really interesting tricks. I think most of the skill sets and the things is observation. Observe and then mimic, right? You see, oh, that's pretty good. Like it's like sometimes when your kids are throwing a tantrum, it's like, see this one dad, he gets down on his knees and he's like, okay, he gets down at their level and he talks to them and he's with them and he's calm and he's like holding their hands and it like completely diffuses that. I'm like, oh, that worked really well. And like you try it and you're like, shit, it did work, and it's like, it's like, okay, they've got a little, repertoire, and you keep like adding things like up like that. So it's like, it's really important to surround yourself with positive dad role models. Some other capable dads.
The reason why I asked that question is because, as we've kind of discussed before, there are a lot of people who will give expert advice out there. And so it's important, I think, and this is where it relates to my work. So when it comes to like evidence-based medicine, we do base a lot of it on the research and all that, but we also base it on the individual person, because a lot of things, not everybody has the same access to the same resources. And so the reason why I bring this up is because I think sometimes we get inundated with all these, whether it's social media, whether it's books, friends that recommend this expert. You should really listen to this expert. You should really, watch this expert. They have a great approach to this, such and such. Great. I mean, it may work for a lot of people, but maybe it may not work for me. So if you find yourself in a situation where you've tried this expert's advice, that expert's advice, and still not working, it doesn't speak to your inability or that you failed as a parent. It just means that maybe your dynamic with your kid is different and doesn't fit those experts' recommendations and all that. And I think that's important. At least that's how I coped with some of the times where I felt like, we were struggling with one aspect of our kids' behavior or whatnot. And we're just trying different things and it's not working. Doesn't mean that we're not doing a good job. Just maybe mean that for that situation, it wasn't effective for our situation.
Yeah, sleep training, feeding, you name it. Like,
oh yeah, colicky, right?
Yeah, that's going to be
sleep
really
training,
challenging.
Yeah,
right?
that was a big one too.
Potty training.
Yeah, there's so many
training.
There's so many different techniques and like strategies, right?
Potty training was easy for me. Yeah. The one thing that I do seek out is like the girl experience.
You as an individual find that challenging? Is that what you're saying?
Not challenging.
Okay.
It's, I don't know what the girl experience is, right? Like, what do they grow up needing from a dad? What are their experiences going to be like? How can I prepare them for each stage of life, right? So some of the experts that I kind of turn to is, women experts.
Yeah.
And just listening to what the woman experiences is like growing up and having, skill sets that benefit them in this world.
Tell me,
It's broadening your perspective, right? It's like obviously you have a blind spot there being a male, that you're not going to have that perspective of what a young woman would need from what would they really benefit from a father, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
maybe we should get some mums on here to tell us what they need from dads, what their kid, what they wish they had.
Please comment.
I want to
Leave a
explore that,
comment.
Stan. Like, so I'm just wondering from your perspective, what do you feel you had to do differently, or that you didn't feel comfortable when she was young, or even up until now that she's 7, that you could for your son?
I understood what it was like to be a boy growing up and how to be like a good kid inside school, right? But now with Summer, I have to try to redirect some of that guidance with a bit of a gender twist.
I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna challenge you to understand. Like, why? Why do you have to twist it?
Why do I have to twist it? I mean, like, I need to tell her, hey, listen, sometimes boys play like this. If you don't like it, you need to tell them straight up. And this is how you have to tell them, right? I'm trying to get out of the hot seat. Did you feel like you understood what it might be like to grow up as a girl? Did you have to understand what it's like to grow up as a girl to be an effective girl dad?
So I don't know if I've had to dive into it too much. I think I'd like to think that if I had a boy as well, I'd just shower them both with affection and care equally. I think obviously that's like rose-colored glasses. I think all of us are probably a bit biased to how you play and how you treat boys and girls are probably very different, but not to say it should be. Not that that's necessarily right.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a right or wrong. When we were kids, we were very divided in terms of, like, as a boy you have to act this way, as a girl you have to act this way. I think the way society has evolved, and again, everybody has their approach to this and their comfort level with any of this. But the way I challenge myself is to be like, okay, I have my intrinsic bias coming from where I come from. I'm a cisgendered straight male, right? That's like as vanilla as I get. I have to understand that society is no longer just that, and whether we are in control of that or not, I don't want to get into that. That's not the point of this podcast. But the point I'm trying to make is that I don't want to pass on my own biases onto my kids.
Yeah.
And I try to be as neutral, as unbiased as I can. There's certain things I do want to be biased about, and I'll be very careful when it comes to certain things like violence or bullying and all that kind of stuff. But there are some things where I think, okay, I'm going to try to not be too controlling and let my kid explore and kind of figure themselves out, as long as it's safe for them to do so. Is the way I kind of approach it.
Yeah, that's pretty sensible. It resonated with me, not trying to impart your biases onto your children. Like, I take my wife and I both really enjoy putting all of our girls into sports.
Yeah.
It's not, none of them do dance or, I guess one of them plays or does gymnastics, which is fairly feminine, but it's quite impressive how strong they get too, right? So it's like, I'm not necessarily trying to push on gender stereotypes.
Yeah, because I think it's important. Like, if we were to go back to when we were young, we were kids, and the idea that boys are supposed to be the ones that are tough and strong and rugged and all that. If I were to have that discussion with my daughter, she'll question, like, why? Like, I can be strong too. I can be tough too. Like, just because, I get hit doesn't mean I have to cry or anything like that. And so, I want to empower her to feel that she is strong physically, emotionally, cognitively, whatever it is. But I want her to feel that just because she is a girl and my son's a boy, that they intrinsically have to have different experiences as a child. Society will dictate that for them, right? Society is going to be enough exposure for them to see what the differences are. I don't want to be that source of that.
Yeah, there's already
difference.
enough outside pressures within the actual social structure.
But you don't want to like guide her through some stuff,
Sure, but what?
right?
Like, tell me what.
Some of the stuff that I was trying to express was when I say the woman experience is sometimes I would, and when I kind of dove into this when Summer was younger, I would talk to some of my girlfriends, some of Karen's girlfriends, and I'm like, yo, what are some things that as a guy I don't understand about women? And they would be like, I'll be walking down the street, and if some dude behind me is just minding his business, but he's walking the same 2 blocks, turning the same 2 turns, I got to be mindful of that.
Totally.
Right? As a man, I don't think
Doesn't
about
cross your
that
mind,
at all.
yeah,
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
If he's walking towards me and he's just staring right at me, I got to cross the street.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff like that.
Totally.
Right?
I had a pretty good one here. It's a bit comical as well. So I had my older one ask me. She's like, "How do you know when you get your period?" And I was like, "I have no idea." She's like, "Can you feel it?" I was like, "I don't know." And I was upstairs like getting them ready for bed, and I was like, "Well, we should ask your mom." So he just yelled down the stairs, "Suri, what does it feel like when you get your period?" It was pretty funny actually, but it's like I don't know what the actual experience is, and it's just like.
I mean, it's interesting because you guys both used examples of two very different things. So yours was a very kind of biologically based, like very factual. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Versus your example is very like a social thing, which for sure we wouldn't. Well, I think both cases we may not know. I mean, I obviously with my line of work know the answer to that one, but in terms of like, totally, and I think that is such a good mindset to have. That being aware that our experience
is limited.
For sure. It's going to be from our point of view. So having that inquisitive mindset and learning, trying to learn so that when your kid does experience it, or they're put in a situation where they are being exposed to something that potentially could be dangerous based on, their gender or their sex and all that, that you will have at least some sort of advice to give them and all that.
Yeah,
totally.
So that's what I mean by
Totally.
I had to be a bit more cognitive of
For sure.
what the woman experience is, right? And one of the big ones was, how do you be friends with a boy? Just friends, without leading, without anything, no hidden agendas, right? How do you be friendly? How does your daughter be friendly with a boy? Yeah, like my daughter has a lot of boys as her friends, right? And she is a very affectionate girl. She is a very cute girl, right? And I don't want her to lead anyone on. I don't want her to like take that affectionate and flirtiness, right? And be misconstrued as, signs, right? So
at this age, even, you worried about that?
At this age, I don't really worry too much, but down the line, she should be aware of it, right? Of how her body language might be misinterpreted as something more, right? I know a lot of guys out there who are like, "Yo, that waitress was hitting on me because she was friendly and smiled at me." I'm like, you mean she was being a waitress and taking your order? Like they would pick up on the smallest things.
But how do you control you?
Right? Like I know you can't control what other people think.
Other people's perceptions.
But I need her to at least know that there are other people thinking that.
That's tough.
Yeah, I think one kind of frame of reference that I always try to preach or teach about is not what the world should be or, you know, what it can be. I mean, that's great. And, you know, we can all envision a better world, but be kind of reality focused, that if you do this, people are going to think this. And like, you know, I didn't make these rules. They're not necessarily fair, but those are what they are. So sometimes just being like reality focused on, you know, real life, right?
Totally.
I'm just trying to think of, I'm a bit of a loss for, you know, I think obviously that was a good example that's probably pretty topical, but there's a lot of other examples like, you know, about how you act in life, like how you act and carry yourself and what you wear and what you do. And, you know, those can impact how people think of you for right or wrong, essentially.
Right.
So I've got a question here, guys. When are we no longer an imposter? It's like we all feel like imposters at some point in our parenting journey.
Yeah.
So when do you think that feeling goes away? Like I definitely feel like a parenting imposter. I feel sometimes like a bit of an imposter on the Capable Dads preaching about being capable when I know full well that I'm incapable in some aspects, right?
Brendan, fake it till you make it, man.
Yeah, just fake it. We're really capable. But
yeah, and I think so. That's, I mean, it's a good segue from what we were talking about, right? Like I think we all start off as imposters, you know, like
yeah,
we all start off having no idea, being completely oblivious to what we're doing.
yep,
And as time goes on, as the experience comes on, as you get exposed to the experience again, so whether it's you had your first kid, so you're an imposter being a parent, but you had that first kid and you go through, they're growing up, they go through their development, and then you have your second kid. Now you've already been through it once. So now you're going to be probably a little bit more comfortable the second time around, right? So you're less of an imposter because you kind of gone through it. Now, obviously every kid's can be a little bit different, but you know, for the most part, you feel like, okay, I've been through this, I can kind of navigate. Then you have your third one. I'm sure by the third one, you're like, we've been through this twice already. We've kind of hit a bit of a stride and probably feel, you know,
You just phone it in.
a little bit more confident that third one. I mean, you can speak to that. You're the only one that has 3 kids here. So tell me, how was that progression for you?
yeah. I mean, on the basic skill set of like, you know, feeding, changing diapers, all that kind of stuff, you definitely get a lot better at the progression. But the complexity of like managing and multitasking definitely scales up. And then there starts to be like inter-kid dynamics of like, okay, are you paying enough attention here? And you're trying to like consistently push all of these, you know, like hockey pucks forward in the same amount and be even about how much you're pushing them all forward. Like I got to give you some attention, and then you, and then you, and you, and you. And they notice when like you're giving more attention. So it's like,
Oh, yeah.
so you give one more attention and then the other one needs it. And it's like a constant battle
Yeah.
of just like pushing them all forward.
So those are new skills that you're learning, right? But
Yeah.
now I have to navigate the whole dynamics. That's a new thing.
Yeah.
For me. So you're imposter at that now. So the question of like, when do you not become imposter? Never. In my opinion, never.
Never. Yeah.
And
that's
because
fair.
it depends on, you know, what are you asking whether you're imposter at?
Yeah. There's always, as soon as you master one thing, you're on to the next, right? It's
Right.
like there's always a learning curve. And right now, I think with our kids getting into the teenage years, or they're just about to,
Oh, don't say that.
the social dynamics, right? The double digits and the social dynamics and understanding the conflicts and, you know, interpersonal and helping them navigate that is it's being interesting to say the least. You know, I don't quite. I'm definitely an imposter at it. I don't know the right way to do it, but you know, at first I'm just talking about it and trying to make sure I have some conversations, which are going pretty well.
Right.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, having a plan to go into the teenage years.
Just saying that is kind of, I mean, you guys are way more ahead than I am at this. I'm like, oh man, that's hard for me to even imagine.
Because I've been through some stuff at the beginning with my younger brother. Now that I'm going through these stages again with my own children. There are times where it's completely different, right? And some of the systems that I had in place with him didn't work with my kids. And it just completely blew in my face, right? The way I talked to him, the way I guided him. Like the previous episode, or when we're talking about risk, right? I like pointed out all these red flags, and my brother was able to, you know, navigate perfectly well. But when I did it with my son, he became very timid and didn't want to try anything. So I completely failed at that.
But it's
Right.
completely different too, because you're such a different person now than you were back then.
Yes.
And how your brother viewed you is, even though you're much older, you're still somewhat of a peer. Where your son right now views you as like truly like big power differential,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes, yes.
the response may be a little bit different.
Yeah. So, like, when we fail, how do you guys come up with a different game plan?
Some humility, always just bringing some humility to it. Not hubris. It's like, you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to learn and be like, okay, that's okay. And, right now when I do make mistakes, I'm always cognizant to apologize to the kids. Like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have swore. You're right. I apologize for that. Or,
No, I remember one time that I completely failed with my kid was the first day of Little League with Winter. And Karen was the one who signed him up, and she was receiving all the emails, where to go, what time to be at there, what to bring. And she just like relayed it to me verbally. I'm like, okay, I know where to go, what time. Okay, cool. I get to that park, nobody there. And I get so frustrated because we have like 5 minutes left. And then I had to like figure out how to log on to her Gmail and find out what email it came from and download the PDF and read everything. So by the time I got into the car and I was racing to the other park, I was furious. I was upset. I wasn't the best driver. I'm sorry. But my kids picked up on my vibe. And that was the first time where I really realized that I was wearing my heart on my sleeve and my kids were not having fun. Right. By the time we got there, Winter was in tears. He's like, I don't even want to go anymore. Right. And I'm like, and I completely feel like this is supposed to be such a fun evening.
Yeah.
I let him down because I couldn't control my emotions, and I completely failed that. How do you pick that up and make it better? How do you, because that's kind of traumatizing,
For
right?
sure.
How do you kind of wipe that slate clean? Can you? Right? Once you know that, oh shit, this is kind of like the bad core memory. How do you address that? Do you address it?
The answer is yes, you address it, right? Because you've acknowledged that he's traumatized right now. And if you don't address it, the trauma will linger and it'll come back. And next time something like this happens, it's going to just trigger all those emotions again, right? So I think the answer is yes, you deal with it. I think my general guideline and rule book for myself would be, number one, acknowledge that you made a mistake. And let whoever it is, whether it's your kid, your partner, whoever, let them know, yeah, that's my bad. That was my mistake. Take accountability that it was your mistake. Then you apologize for making the mistake. You don't have to say I'm not perfect. You just say, okay, I made a mistake. I acknowledge. I take accountability. And then the next step is, how are we going to make this better? How am I going to change myself to hopefully avoid making this mistake again? And I still may make the mistake again, but at least I'm showing to that person, especially your kid, that I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I'm going to try to be better for you. And I think you'll never erase the trauma. I don't think you'll ever erase the experience. That memory's there, and they'll remember that likely forever. But how you reframe what happens after that is what they're going to remember. Yeah, I was traumatized by my dad driving crazy and being all pissed off and all that, and it was a terrible experience. But he knew he did something wrong. He reassured me, and he made this difference this next time and made sure it didn't happen again. And I love him for that. And that's the way I would hope that your kid would respond to it if you addressed it and made those changes.
Yeah, I had a very similar actual experience recently. It was, I was just misplanned. It didn't allot enough time to pack everything up, get out of the day. And I was like 15 minutes late for an event that one of my kids was attending. And I was like, I just didn't expect all these lines. I didn't think ahead. And I'm like, was like a bit frazzled and
Totally.
it felt pretty bad that I let her down, but she wasn't really phased, which was good. But it was like Caesar was saying, it was just like, it's like, yeah, sorry. It's just like, I just didn't plan well.
Yeah.
And just like acknowledge it. And, there's usually some pretty easy steps like, shit, like I shouldn't have hit snooze twice or something, right?
My kid usually calls me out on it. She'll be like, well, it's not my job to make sure that we get out of the house on time. That's your job. That's your job as a parent. I'm like, yeah, it's my fault, and I should plan ahead better next time.
Yeah, that's a common one, right? It's like, getting frustrated with the kids trying to get out the door, but it's all on you.
Totally.
Yeah, so just acknowledging that and apologizing to them too. Like, we should have just helped you along the process better, and give yourself a bit more time to help them plan too.
Yeah.
We talk about us recognizing our failures and our shortcomings.
Yeah.
Do you recognize other parents' shortcomings?
do you recognize it too much?
Oh, that is a loaded question.
Yeah.
I was at Costco tonight. That's why I was late, guys. That ice cream wasn't going to eat itself. I was at Costco tonight, and there was this family unit. They had 2 kids on the stroller. The older kid was obviously making the younger kid like miserable. And the parent didn't parent, right? It's the mom just, hugged the smaller one. The dad was obviously not present. He was like either looking for stuff or on his phone. And the older one was just, continuously harassing the younger one.
Sounds like my childhood.
He was like pushing the mom as well. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? I see stuff like that and I can't help to judge. Internally, I'm like, damn, like discipline the kid. Like tell.
Yeah, I wonder if our generation is getting with the gentle parenting, is not to throw shade at gentle parenting, but everything is leaning more to being softer and kinder, which is generally good. But maybe we're losing a bit of the edge of like, okay, when do you have to draw a hard line and actually set some boundaries, right?
Yeah, like I don't know. I couldn't help myself. I couldn't just like, it was such a scene. Right, that
was notable.
I couldn't look away, and I couldn't have those thoughts in my mind. Like, I'm sure I was casting like judgy looks at them.
It's okay. Those judgy looks can, be social reinforcement for them to do better.
I don't think they cared.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's tough, right? Because so first off, I think what you experienced and what you witnessed was 5 minutes of their life, and you're probably your assumptions of what was going on, the dynamic between the siblings and the parents, you're probably accurate on what it was, but we always have to remember that's 5 minutes of their life that you're witnessing. We have no idea what happened before. You're probably right with your instincts, and that's fine, but I think if you ask me, do I ever judge other parents? Of course I do. I think every parent, intrinsically judges. But then I try to catch myself as quick as possible. Like, okay, stop that judgment, because there's no point, right? And that's the whole idea. I think we all know that there are parents out there that we don't agree with their style of parenting.
100%.
Right? Like I'm sure people out there are not going to agree with some of the things that we say here, and are going to judge us for the way we parent our kids.
Flame suit on.
I don't care what other people think about how I parent. So therefore, I shouldn't worry about caring about someone else and how they parent. But it kind of goes back to the discussion we had previously. Like, is it ever okay to step into, whether it's disciplining another kid that's not your kid, or like how far do we take it, and when is it okay? Passing judgment is just one thing, but to me, it's like I I know I have a lot of judgment, but I try to catch myself to not judge other people. That's one thing. But like, you know, let's say you witness something that you don't agree with. Like, what's the point of judging if you're not going to do anything about it, kind of thing. Do you guys ever do anything about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, in this situation that you described, Sam, I don't think I would do anything. I don't think there's anything to gain there. And I don't know if it's necessarily negatively affecting you. You know, I'd probably just go shop in a different aisle, come back just to stop.
See the show still going on?
I just turn my back and just the
just
other way.
Get away from the noise, right? It sounds like you're just gonna have a screaming fit. But I think like I've had a recent experience. I was telling Caesar on the way up that you know, there was another experience where a kid was interacting negatively with my kids, and you know, I had to, you know, use kind of a stern voice and be like, stop, don't do that. Like you continue to do this, it's going to really upset me. And I had to do that in front of this other parent. And I was like, this felt really awkward having to like use like your stern dad voice in front of like,
that was directly affecting you.
Yeah. I mean, the kid was, you know, tormenting my daughter.
Yeah.
And I was like, and my daughter's like, stop, I don't like this.
Right.
And stop, I don't like this. And I said, stop, I don't like this.
Which is, I think, fully appropriate, right? Like you're directly getting affected. You're being protective over your kid. You're being protective over yourself. So I think it's 100% appropriate to step in at that point.
Yeah,
because
put some boundaries
you're
up, right? Yeah, definitely. So I mean, but that's an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not pleasant at all, actually. So
last year at softball, my daughter went to her first little league team, and I happened to be the coach. So I was surrounded by a bunch of, how old was she? 5 or 6 year olds, right? And baseball is such a boring sport for them. There's some kids that are really into it, some kids that are not into it, and some kids just don't want to be there. And there's this one girl that just didn't want to be there. She just wanted her dad beside her on the field. She wanted her dad to pick up the ball and put it into her glove. She wanted her dad. She would throw it, and she wanted her dad to like pick it up and run into the like. It was very spoiled, and the father enabled her.
Yeah,
into that.
Enabled it. Yeah,
right. So I took it on myself, and I'm like, listen, she's gonna be my project this year. And I told the dad, next time, just sit down, bring a lawn chair, just sit down. I got her, right. And he was like, oh, no, it's okay. I don't mind this and that. And I know he was reluctant to give up the reins.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, trust me. Right. Like, I don't want to see you like this. It's embarrassing for the both of us. But the next like 3 games, she would stand beside me, or I would stand beside her on the field, and she would bawl her eyes out because he wouldn't come out. Right. And she would like yell at him, call him names, you know, like the power dynamic was like so different. But by the 4th game, we turned the corner. You know, she understood where she needed to go. She understood what she needed to do, and she had to do it herself. And by the end of the season, it was a little bit better. It wasn't the best.
Sure.
But it was a little bit better.
Yeah.
Right. And even the dad recognized the change. Was that me stepping over the boundaries?
As a coach, I'd say no, to be honest. It's like, you know, when you give your kid over, or they're playing any sport, rec, competitive, whatever it ends up being, I think, you know, the coach has to have control of the kids at that point. So it's like, you can support them as much as they ask for, but you can't get in their way and start meddling with how the coach is handling stuff. You got to give the coaches space to operate. So I think he did the right thing in that case, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think as a coach, like if you were just another parent that's in the stands and trying to do this, I think that's probably overstepping. But as the coach, your goal is to coach. And you can't be an effective coach if one of your players is being distracted by parent or whatnot. And then so that will then distract your other players, and then they'll be watching that, and then they're going to lose focus on the game. So I think your goal as a coach is to get your kids to be focused on the task at hand, which is playing baseball or whatever it is. And so you did what you saw was the right thing to do, and you did what would help you be able to coach the team the way you wanted to coach it. So I think it was completely appropriate.
I think that, and the other important thing that probably worth mentioning on this is that a coach's job is kind of teach them the skills to play the sport, but B, it's also like helping them develop real life skills, emotional maturity, and self-regulation, and understand those different things, and doing that in a playful way. So I mean, you're helping that child, sounds like, grow personally, which is probably more important than learning how to hit a baseball.
Yeah,
like 100% more important than hitting a baseball.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I think that's a lot of times one of the biggest reasons to get a kid into sports and all that is you need to have a adult figure that's not your own parent, and understand how to interact with that adult person in an organized way where, not to say that you want to just, follow someone blindly, but this person's selected to be that position. So it's important for a kid to learn what it's like to listen to somebody that's not their own parent.
Yeah.
It's almost the hardest thing to coach your own kid. And that's why whenever, someone asks me whether I'm going to, teach my own kid this or whatnot, I'll say, no, I'm probably going to bring them somewhere else, because I know by me being their parent, it's going to completely change the dynamic of that coach-player relationship. And you can't effectively, sometimes it's really hard to effectively coach your own kid, versus if you had another adult that says the exact same words, does the exact same drills as you, will do it a lot better just because they're not the kid's parent, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. And I wondered if, forcing them to do things that they might not like now, like little things. Like, okay, today you don't want to make your bed. Okay, you get that down. Your resilience and that portion of your brain might grow a bit.
Just the little things like that.
A little bit of discipline, a little bit of, you've grown that area. Oh, now you're making your own lunch. Oh, now you're cooking dinner. Oh, now you're vacuuming and doing your laundry. And it's like you're doing all, like, your discipline is like physically growing in your brain.
Yeah.
Really
doing
cool.
the things you don't want to do, but doing it like you love it.
Yeah.
That's discipline, according to Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I think our algorithms are the same, I think. Yeah, I think I saw that too. I was like, damn, right.